Welcome to another interesting episode of Feminine Scope, a program where we discuss issues affecting women, celebrating triumphs that covers different spheres of life and seeking ways to solve their challenges. I am Amanda Ezekwokogu. A research conducted by the United Nations confirms that breast ironing affects more than 3.8 million women around the world and has become one of the 5 underreported crimes relating to gender-based violence. The custom uses large stones, a hammer, or spatulas that have been heated over hot coals to compress the breast tissues of girls as young as 9 to 15 years old. This is done because they want to stop the girls from looking like women and make them unattractive and shielding them from unwanted male attention, pregnancy, and even rape. This is common in Cameroon, Chad, Togo, Guinea, and even Nigeria. Recently, the Minister of Women Affairs, Uju Kennedy Ohaneye, signed a memorandum of understanding with the heads of communities in Abuja to eliminate breast ironing, an act that violates the rights of the girl child. What is breast ironing? How did this barbaric act originate? What are the risk factors or after effects? To answer these questions and more, my guest today is a certified gender-based mental health advocate and author and the founder of the Good Tide Philippian Mission Foundation. You'll get to meet her after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Feminine Scope, and today we'll be discussing breast ironing, which has become a major cause for concern. Our guest today is a certified gender-based mental health advocate and author and the founder of the Good Tides Philippian Mission Foundation, Lois, Tofunmi, Amele. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so good to be here. Happy New Year.
So good to see you too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. How have you been?
I've been good. And you?
I've been great. I've been okay.
You know, recently, starting the year, we've had so much noise about breast ironing.
Yeah.
And recently, the Minister for Women Affairs, she went around communities, you know, making them sign MOUs about, you know, breast ironing. So the noise is really high now.
Yeah.
We've never really heard about it like it's a hidden thing.
Yeah,
that
has
is
been
not
hidden.
as much as, you know, sexual
and gender-based violence.
Gender-based violence.
Yeah.
So now, what is breast ironing? Because it's a strange thing.
Yeah. I know some people will just be wondering that, okay, breast ironing, where have this been? That was how FGM was when we started advocating for FGM, and we thank God for the success today. Breast ironing is a harmful traditional practice that people do these days. They do it in different forms. They do it either by pounding, pressing, or massaging the breast down, to delay the breast development, you know. And just to basically it's to delay the girls the breast development. That's what, you know, breast ironing is for. And if you look at it, over 3.8 million, you know, women and girls are living with the consequences of breast ironing today, and it calls for, you know, it calls for attention. And I'm glad that the Minister of Women Affairs is on the matter, because it's a serious thing, and the faster we talk about it, the better for us, and the faster we eradicate it, because we don't just want it to, you know, talk about after some time we forget about it. It's something that we really need to follow up on. And yeah, that's one of the things that happened with female genital mutilation. A lot of people just came, they created awareness, and they left. They didn't follow up. They didn't use gatekeepers. They didn't, you know, put more effort in finding who are the people doing this, who are the practitioners, how do we go about it. They didn't do all of that. Some people did not do all of that, and that's the reason why you know, I was talking somewhere about 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago or last year, you know, at a TV station, and I mentioned different harmful traditional practice, and I was like, oh, female genital mutilation, child betrothal, child marriage, breast ironing, and somebody was like, what do you mean by breast ironing? And I'm like, yes, there are two communities in Abuja here that we have heard of. Not even, there are other communities even in Abuja here that we have not heard of. It's just because these two communities, we have heard of them. And you know, and that was where, I think that was where the minister went to visit.
Paduma,
that's Pibasama community and Paduma community, Paduma 2 community. They are around the Apple side. You know, and one thing I like, you know, when I read the article was the fact that NAPTIP has some people to follow up, some people around that Kabusa area to follow up and to check, you know, just like to do like a check, you know, because that's one of the things that, you know, I always talk about. When you enter communities and you see these things happen, the first thing to do is to create watchdogs. Yes, that's the word, watchdog, people that can, you know, check and say, okay, oh, this thing is still happening, it's not happening anymore, and all of that, you know. So yeah.
So what are the cultural beliefs behind this breast ironing?
Okay, the major cultural belief is the fact that once you're growing and you're about 10 years or 11 years thereabout, because the people that have seen this happen to 9, 10, 11, 12, and you're this thing, and you're beginning to grow, you know, grow breast, you know, the parents will be like, ah, why this, the men will see you, you know, we want to hide you from men and all of that. We don't want them to notice you because we don't want you to bring shame to our family. That's through pregnancy and all of that. So they're like, okay, no, we don't want that. So they're using that to cope the girl. That's basically what they are doing. But I would say, when I talk about female genital mutilation, is the wrong way. Is there a word like wrongest? You know, to cope a girl, you know, to cope a girl child is the wrongest way. You know, there are a lot of things you can do, a lot of things you can put in place to help the girl instead of, you know, harming her body, you know, unlike just like the female genital mutilation as well, harming their bodies to make sure that, you know, they stop this act. And I think looking into and reading what happened in those communities, you can see that they have lots of abuse, you know, sexual assault, sexual harassment. You know, when I was reading the article, I saw that there were a lot of sexual harassment around that particular community. So the women are trying, these things are not even the things that some men even know about. The women themselves are the ones that say, no, you know, let's just try and hide our daughter. At least if she doesn't have breast, they will say she's still a baby, you know, she's still a small girl. You know, so they want to use that to hide their girls. But their intentions are right, but you know, it causes a lot of harm.
This breast ironing thing, do families support it? Is it the families that tell them, okay, we're going to do this? Is it like a ceremony or something? Mm-hmm. Or it's mandatory that a girl child must come and do that breast ironing when she gets to a particular age?
Okay, for the stories that I've heard, it's not something like a family thing, like a cultural thing, like the female genital mutilation. Like the female genital mutilation, there's some people, they do like a ceremony to usher the girl into humanhood. Mm-hmm. You know, so those are the social cultural reasons when it comes to female genital mutilation. But for breast ironing, I think it's just a decision of the mother. The mother just looks around and be like, this girl, you're beginning to grow breast at this age. No, we have to do something about it. You know, so she just does that. I don't think they even consult the father of the girl. That means that's like the husband of the woman. No, I don't think they consult people. I think they just go ahead to just do it. Maybe.
So we'll say it's a woman thing.
Yes, it's a woman thing. And you know, I read a story of a woman that said when her mother wanted to do it to her, she kept on running away and did not allow her mother to do it to her. But now she has done it to her own daughter. So it's just a transgenerational thing, just like female genital mutilation as well. I don't know why I'm comparing them a lot, but you know, it's just that's just what we're saying. It's a transgenerational thing as well. She was running away during her own time and she wanted her mother to forget about it. But now she has a daughter and she feels like if I don't do it to this girl, see the community that we are in, see what is happening, fear. You know, asserting that no, I have to do this to this girl so that people don't, you know, notice her. And if you notice children of nowadays, most of them, when you ask them, how old are you? They're like 14, 15, but they look very big. You know, they look big and you're like, you look like you're 18 or 19 and all of that. And that can be due to a lot of factors. Food, climate change, a lot of factors, you know. But and
genetics too.
Genetics, and you can't blame them. You can't blame those children for being big. Okay, you can't blame them. That's just who they are, you know. And when you now say, okay, because of this, let me now, you know, try to, you know, use because now, like from the stories I've heard, they use turning stick, they use there's this thing that they cut from a calabash. From what I read, the baggy people call it, I've forgotten what they call it, payama, or I've forgotten what they call the name. You know, it's like that's what we used to pack swallow, something like that. So they make the calabash like that, and then they now put it in heat. When it's hot, they now place it on the breast. You know, some people use cloth, so they tie, you know, the breast round, and then they put this grinding stone in maybe hot surface, and then they use it to massage the breast. Some people use belts, you know, so they just they tie the belt on the breast to tie it very tight, and then they place something hot, and then they massage the breast with it. So different people have their, you know, what they use, you know.
How did the awareness start? Because men mentioning these tools that they use, obviously it's a very painful process.
Yes, it is.
How did the awareness start?
I think a lot of people now notice that these things are happening, because the consequences of female genital mutilation is not one that a person can hide. Because did I say female genital mutilation now? Sorry, breast ironing is not one that a person can hide, because looking at it, one of the factors is that one of the breasts may be bigger than the other breast, and the
like
difference,
the effects of it.
Yeah, the effects, and it will show, you know. So people now begin to notice that, oh, what happened to this lady? What's wrong? Because there's a physical, you know, deformity, as we may call it, you know. So when they look and say, so what happened to this lady? And she begins to tell her story. And when she tells her story, or when you go to the hospital, something, they just cause it, and people were like, oh, so these things are happening. But I've heard about it a long time. I heard about it a long time ago, and I've been advocating, but a lot of people don't really, you know, they just feel it's not happening. People they didn't even imagine that it was happening in Abuja here, you know. And I tell people that Abuja is not just this Wuse and central area and all of that, you know. Abuja goes beyond that. We have Kabusa, we have Buhari, we have different communities in Abuja, you know, that people don't even, you know, get to look at or get to, you know, go, check. But these things are happening in those communities, and the faster we start talking about these things, the better for us.
When you get into communities talking about this breast ironing, how can it be curtailed? Because this is something they have grown with. Like you said, it's a transgenerational thing. They've grown with it over the years. Once somebody does it, you say, okay, when I have my own child, they will do, not minding the pain they had to go through. How can this be curbed? Like, is it through the leaders in the community? Because of course, I don't know about other communities, but I know in the eastern part, when you come into a community, there are people they call the mothers. They are the ones that like protect the girl child, or even, you know, do some harmful practices as well. So in these communities down here, how can this be curbed? Are there people who follow through when important information is passed down?
I would say that if we want to cope breast ironing, let's start from the root cause. The root cause is sexual harassment. That's what I can see here. The root cause is sexual harassment. So let's start, you know, looking into sexual harassment. How can we stop sexual harassment? Let's start from there. Because the women are afraid. There was a reason for the mother to want to do that to her child. There's a reason for her. She saw something, and that thing was sexual harassment. So we need to start from there. Let's stop sexual harassment. Let's create more awareness about this. Let's talk to the men. Let's make men our allies. Okay, when I'm talking about men are allies, it's now you're talking about the Umadas. The Umadas are women. It's a women community. What of the men community? Are they doing anything to create awareness about sexual harassment among themselves? Are they doing something to say, oh, this man, if you do this, this is what we'll do for you in this community? Are they creating awareness? Because now, from what we heard, you know, from communities where, you know, from sexual harassment generally, you begin to hear, she enjoyed it. When it happened, she enjoyed it. So that was why she stayed. Because after struggling, she was tired and she just stayed, you know, and the man said, she enjoyed it. You know, so what are the men doing about this? We want men to be our allies. We want them to work with us, you know, to advocate, to do all of this. That's why the other day when I saw men end female genital mutilation, I was energized. I was happy, because the women cannot do it alone. We need all hands on deck to end breast ironing. So I think we need to put breast ironing on the at the forefront. The way we acted during the COVID-19. So with all the task force, everybody, all hands on deck. Let's do that as well when it comes to breast ironing, because a lot of girls are at risk. Okay, mastitis, inflammation, infection of the breast. I heard it even causes sour breast. When it's time for them to start lactating. I heard it causes a lot of things for them.
We'll come to the effects later. Now, what are the policies that have been put in place? Would you say the government is involved? Now, because of how the Minister of Women Affairs made so much, noise through the media over it, that is when people started becoming aware of breast ironing.
Yeah.
They have signed an MOU, those communities, and definitely some measures will be enforced.
Yeah.
What are the policies that the government have put in place, and do you think they are well involved, or just coming to talk about it and going off?
I would say that there are policies that are put in place right a long time ago. Breast ironing have been happening a long time ago, and there are policies that are put in place, because when you check the Child Rights Act, the VAP Act, you can see that there are policies that are put in place, to end any violence against the girl child. So there are policies that are put in place, but one of the problems we're having is implementation. Ability to be able to implement some of these things, because looking at it, nobody has been arrested on breast ironing. Maybe female genital mutilation, we've had 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 that have been arrested. Nobody has been arrested. In fact, the percentage we had, 3.8, is just, to me, it sounds like 1/4 of those people that have gone through, the victims, that have gone through it. So there are policies put in place a long time ago, but what we're looking at now is implementation. We need to start implementing these things. I'm glad that the minister came, and when she came, a lot of people are like, oh, so this thing has been existing. People like us have been talking about these things for a long time ago. We've been going to TV stations, we've been talking about these things.
But no awareness. There have not been enough awareness.
It's because a lot of people have not come into it, and I'm sorry to say, a lot of NGOs are waiting till when there's money on something before they now stop. They now say, okay, this is so this is what it is. Then let's start advocating for it. So that I don't know, because this is something that really pains me, something that I'm really passionate about. We've been creating awareness about it, and I was so excited when the minister came up, because when she said it, everybody was not like, oh, so there was breast ironing. But people like us have been out there advocating to end breast ironing for a long time ago, and I want to urge a lot of NGOs, because we cannot, one person cannot do it alone. And that's why even our 16 days of activism, the team was unite. When NGOs come together, Ministry of Women Affairs, other organizations, we come together to end this, then we will not be hearing about these things. Look at what female genital mutilation is today. Today, a lot of people now know about it. When somebody hears female genital mutilation, they are aware that, okay, this is what it is, and this thing should not continue. But breast ironing, people even do it in the comfort of their homes, and it sounds like it's okay for you to do it to your girl child because you're protecting the girl child. But then there are a lot of things that happens to the girl afterwards. So I want to plead with the government. If people like us are talking and people don't even listen to us, then if the government, if we have people like the government, we have NAPTIB, we have like what the Minister of Women Affairs, a lot of organizations too, people that are influential, people that when they come into the fold and help us with this kind of thing and help us create awareness about it, then we don't get to hear. Because I want to say that the people that are doing this, the women that are doing this, they are truly innocent. They don't know the harmful effect of these things. They do it because they want to protect their girls. They do it because the life of their girls are at risk. So they're just looking for something to help their girl child with. But when we now create awareness that, there's something you can do. There's something you can do to actually, help this girl. There's something teach her to shout whenever there is an issue. Teach her how to protect herself. Teach her to be defensive. Teach her to know where to hit him to run away. Then that would help. But I'm still calling on the government and some other people. I would also say that the Minister of Women Affairs cannot still do it alone. She also need NGOs, need people around to help carry this news. The other day she was at Kubasama community and all those communities to help. What of other communities? My friend that told me about this act, she doesn't even stay in Abuja. Wow. We have different communities. I heard the news was carrying Mina. Not only people in Mina, Plateau State as well. I've heard people in Plateau State are also doing these things, you know. So it's important that, you know, we talk about this. We make people we make people come up and say, okay, so this is what is going on. Let's start the campaign. Let's start talking about it, because people like us, we just do the best that we can, and we're grateful to you, you know, Amanda, that you can see that, oh, I've heard you talk about breast ironing. Please come and talk about it on this show. Okay, we need more of that, and we need more media people to also call on people like us to also talk about it, to create awareness. Radios are getting to those people. Social media, we're also using that. But it's important that people understand these things so that they are able to, you know, find a way to eradicate
it. Aside from the government that is getting fully involved in this, now which other organizations are involved in this?
There was one organization I heard about them, and that was the first time I heard about it, even in Abuja here. But I've heard about it a long time ago, but not in Abuja here. And they're the Teenage Network, Timikpa. You know, she's an amazing woman. You know, she does a lot of things around it. She worked with Action Aid. You know, so I hosted, you know, the event the day she was presenting this, and I met with people in that community because they attended the event as well that day. So I've heard of Teenage Network, but I've not really heard about so many other organizations. Teenage Network in partnership with Action Aid Plus. Now we're hearing about Ministry of Women Affairs. You know, then my organization, Good Side Philippian Mission Foundation.
What are the effects?
Okay.
Short-term, long-term, what are the effects of breast ironing? Okay,
for short-term effects of breast ironing is the pain. You know, at that time when they're actually doing that to the girl, the pain, she can be screaming, and a lot of people from that screaming and crying, shock, and probably death. Okay, those are the short-term. But then long-term effect is enormous, because you get to see that one of the breasts is smaller than the other breast, and the difference is very clear. You know, then mastitis, that's inflammation that's due to infection of the breast. Then we get to see abscess, you know, around the breast. You know, how do I explain this? It looks like is it blister? It looks like blister. You know, there is like a skin on top, and it looks as if there's water inside, you know, so something like that. So there are a lot of harmful effects. Sour breast milk actually also happens too during lactation. Long-term effect, because most times these things happen to girls maybe with around 0 to 15, you know. So will I say 0, not 0, because they don't have breast at that time.
9 to 15.
And so let's say 9 to 15.
Because they mature early.
Exactly. So 9 or 8 to 15, because I've seen some girls around 8 and they already have breast. So 8 to 15. So, you know, this happens to them.
How can the men get involved? Because definitely these girls who their breasts are being ironed have fathers.
Yes.
And you mentioned earlier that most times the fathers don't even know. How can the men be fully involved?
And that's why we're creating awareness today, so that they can hear that this is what is happening, and so that they can talk to their wives about it. Because I feel like the men have so much authority in their home. You know, I'm not saying that, you know, the men and the women are not equal, because we're also talking about equality, and it's very important. But I would say that there's a level of respect and all of that that women give to their men, you know, in the family and all of that. So I would say that it is important. The man can also dictate what happens to his child. So if the man now says, no, I don't want this. There's a story of a woman, but this story is about female genital mutilation. She was supposed to be caught, and the man said she was refusing. They told her in the hospital, don't be caught though. She said okay. She was refusing, that she didn't want to be caught. It was time for her to give birth during parturition, you know, and she was just there, and people came and they wanted to help her, and as they were coming, they said, hey, abomination. They were washing their hands, and she still, look at her clitoris is still there, you know. So people went away, they could not touch her. And the mother-in-law said, just allow them to cut you now. Just the woman said no, that she don't want anybody to cut her. The husband now came and said, I have the final say over my husband, let them over my wife rather, let them cut her. So women now went there and they wanted to cut her. I think I've said this story before. And when she was trying, when they wanted to cut her, she was now trying to push the baby. So the head of the baby was already coming out. Those women pushed the head of the baby back inside just because they wanted to cut her clitoris.
Are you for real?
So the men have authority to do this. So they have so much authority to also change the scope around breast ironing. So I would say that it is important that, but most of the times when you look at these things, the women don't tell the men that this is what they want to do to their daughters. You know, so I want to say that there should be involvement. The men should get themselves involved in the day-to-day, you know, running of the home, taking care of their children. Because a lot of men, they just go to work, come back. How are you people doing? Drop money for food. But that's not all. I want to applaud some of the 21st century fathers. They are doing more, but then in those days they don't do that. They just go to farm, come back. They keep the responsibility of the children to the mothers, and the mother will be like, I don't want this one. Because if you look at it, those that do female genital mutilation are also women. Most of them are women. Okay, so we're calling on the men, and we're saying that there's so much you can do to help. There's so much you can do to help, and it starts from, I don't know what they call men gathering. The women is umada in the evils, you know, umunna. So they should start talking about this. How do they get involved? Not only when it comes to breast ironing, because there are a lot of things apart from breast ironing. Sexual harassment. How do you teach? You're the first person. You're the first. You know, you're the first, like I call my father my boyfriend. You're the first boyfriend to that girl. So you're the one to teach her how to go about, you know, her sexual life. What happens? But some of the men say, no, that duty is for the mother. How do I say this? How do I tell her that, hey, she's going to be growing breast? How do I tell her about her menstruation? How do I tell her about this? It's not supposed to be the mother's duty. The father and the mother can do it. And the father can also do it. What of a situation where the mother is not alive? Would you just leave your daughter like that? So it's important that we come together. Both the father and the mother, we come together to train the child. We don't just leave it for the mother alone. I think from there, most of this harmful traditional practice will stop.
We've been discussing breast ironing, and we'll be going on a short break. When we come back, we still have a lot to talk about and create awareness on breast ironing. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of Asortv 93.5 FM Abuja, Asor Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Feminine Scope, and before we went on a short break, we've been discussing about breast ironing and the effects, long-term, short-term policies and all that. We still have our guests in the studio, Tofunmi, Lois, Amele.
Yeah.
So now, what are the barriers stopping the implementing of breast ironing?
Okay, I think one of the first thing is the fact that a lot of people don't know about it yet. So that's like the first thing. So we don't start blaming the government, because when we just hear, hey, the government, but I don't think it's something. I think it's the fact that we need to now start talking about it so that people can now hear. We bring it to the focal point, and then we can now say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Because looking at it, the judiciary has to come into this. They are the first point of implementation, you know, when it comes to some of these things. So I would say that we need to sensitize the judiciaries the gender decks, in the judiciaries, that okay, in the police stations and some of these places, and tell them that okay, this is what happened to, this is the law, this is what happens to those set of people, this is what happens, so they can understand that okay, this is what happened. Because sometimes when it happens in communities and you have a watchdog and you're like, oh, this has happened, let's run to the police and tell them. You go to the police station and they're like, so what can happen? So what do you want me to come do? Things like that. And they're like, but they told us to report. If these things happen, they told us to come to the police station to report. So you're now like, me, I don't know what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to arrest the person. The police, let me just stop it there. Because a lot of people don't know what to do. A lot of people have not read the VAP Act, the Child Rights Act, so they don't know some of these things. And it's important that I used to say that we have our mobile phones. There are things that we need to go and read. Some people, it just makes me want to believe the fact that they say if you want to hide something from an African man, you should hide it in a book because he will never check. And that's the reason why a lot of people trample on some people, because you don't know your right. So when you don't know your right, people just come and they trample on you because you don't know that you're supposed to say something. You don't know you're supposed to do something. Okay, so I would say that, it's important that we create awareness about these things, and that's why I've been applauding, the Ministry of Women Affairs for what she had done. Let's keep creating awareness. Let's sensitize the judiciaries that this is what is happening. This is what they're supposed to do if any case comes like this. I'm happy that NAPTIP is also involved, because they have, the permission to actually enforce laws. So I'm happy that they know these things. So from there we can now start picking up, and then we can now start sensitizing other people that okay, this is what happened. Oh, this police station is aware. Oh, if this type of thing happen, this is who to report to, this is what to do, and then we can pick it up from there.
We've been talking about breast ironing, policies, parents. Now let's talk about the victims.
Yeah.
How do they heal?
Okay.
Because I can't imagine a child going through a painful process. Even as an adult, when hot oil touches you, you know how painful it is. Not talk of now pressing it on a delicate skin of a child.
Yeah.
When this happens, what effect does it have on them, and how do they heal?
Okay, like I said earlier, the long-term and short-term effects, are there. I told you the long-term effects, the blisters, the pain, shock, and some even die. And then you now look into the long-term effects. The difference in the breast size, the mastitis, sagging of breast, and a lot of things that happen. So the healing process, I would say that it's important that number one, these things stop, and then from the healing process, let's start psychologically, okay? Because depression is going to be there, low self-esteem. You can imagine a woman walking, and she's, we women, every little thing that goes out of our body, we're careful. Oh, my face is looking somehow, my skin, this and this. We're careful to look at these things, and when we look at it, and people begin to say, why your breast they like this? Low self-esteem sets in, depression, sadness, and all of these things sets in, and from there the person is now feeling that will any man look at me, will any man want to, and all these things that goes on, in the world that we are in today. But I would say that it's important that if you have gone through this and you are not okay, because there are people that have survived this. I've heard of stories of people that survived it, they are okay, and they are living their lives. But we're saying that there are people that these things have harmfully affected, and today they are not happy about what happened to them. So we're saying that it's important that we reach them, we talk to them, get psychological help. If you're part of those set of people, get psychological help, meet someone that can help you, and you can even go to the hospital if there's something they can still do about helping you. But the helping starts from the mind. So start with your mind. Remember that you are okay. You have everything you need to be a woman. You have everything you need to be an amazing woman. So let's start from there before you now go to the hospital and get yourself straight.
Are there counseling centers where they can go to in case any of them wants to seek for help? Because sometimes they don't even know that it's the breast ironing they went through as kids that is affecting them.
True.
So when they, now that there's so much noise about it, some who have gone through it can sit back and, think back on the process of what happened to them.
Yeah.
So are there places where they can go for counseling?
Places for counseling, I don't know. I'm a mental health advocate. There's just so little that we can do. We need like a proper psychiatrist, a therapist that can help. Okay, and I know there are places to go. I don't just have the names of those places at the top of my head right now, but I know seed builders. I've heard of them doing, offering free counseling section for people with sexual and gender-based violence. So I know that seed builders do that. I know that. I don't know. I think the Ministry of Women Affairs, NAPTIP, they also have their therapist, that you can also go to for help. So there are people that do that.
Have there been success stories in stopping this?
Yes, I've read success stories. I read actually, because I've not been to Piguasama community or the Paduma community where these things have happened, but I read success stories. In fact, I heard, Mrs. Timipa talk about some of the success stories. In fact, I was there when the woman, what did I forget? I was there when the woman came out and said in one of the programs that they had, when she said that, oh, we have heard what people have said, and we have stopped it. And one of the things that Teenage Network did was they created a watchdog in that community, a woman there that helps to check, oh, are you doing this thing? When we have already said people should not do this thing, we'll report you. So they created that forum, in that community, and most of them have said they've stopped, because one of the things that happened that majorly caused that were the domestic violence and the sexual harassment. Because I heard that one of the things that that also happens in that community is domestic violence. Seriously happening in that community, physical violence, because even breast ironing is physical violence. So I know that that's one of the things that they also go through in that community, and now we're calling that community, but then there are other communities that are still these things are still happening. There are places
they are not yet known.
They are not yet known. So we're just using this opportunity to also create awareness that domestic violence and sexual and gender-based violence, they are root causes for a lot of things. And the faster we start looking into sexual and gender-based violence, ending them, then we can now see that some of these things will stop here and there. Because the reasons why, from the testimonies or from the success stories, some of the women were doing these things to their girls was because there's sexual harassment in the community. Men are seeing girls and they're assaulting them. So that's one of the reasons. So we're saying that, okay, let this stop. When this can stop, then all this one too will stop. But now we're pleading with the women in those communities and those practitioners that it's important that they stop, breast ironing. It's very, very important they stop breast ironing.
As an advocate, how would you advise government to follow through on this? Because it's not just about creating awareness right now. How can it be followed through? Because this is an ongoing awareness thing. People are yet to hear about it. If not for the noise that has been made so far, people won't even know about breast ironing and how serious it is and how it affects the girl child. So as an advocate, how would you advise the government to follow through on this?
Okay, I like the fact that our president talks about renewed hope, and I like what the wife of the president is doing, because I've been hearing during the 16 days of activism, I've been hearing, conferences and programs that has happened, towards that. And I would say that it's important that, we begin to look into these things. The way, like I said earlier, the way we brought COVID-19 to the forefront and we addressed it, we treated it, we went through it with full force, we need that to also happen. And I like what the Ministry of Women Affairs has done here in Abuja. Can other, the branches of the Ministry of Women Affairs do the same thing? We want you people to also do the same thing in your communities. Whether you have breast ironing, you don't have breast ironing in your community, please do it. Can we do that? Can the government help us to do that? Because when you say breast ironing, let some people do it. Then when they go to those communities and they are unable to do it, so let's recruit people that can actually talk about these things. Let's recruit people that are passionate, because looking at it, you cannot just go there and start shouting, you must change, you must do this, you must do that. When you leave that place, they will continue what they are doing. So we want it in such a way that every community in the 36 states of Nigeria, we want awareness creation in those states. Can the Women Affairs do that for us? If the government can, whatever it's needed, if the funds are needed for people to travel, whatever it's needed, let the government give them. Because the lives of girls are at risk. We're talking about breast ironing today. We still have child marriage happening in different communities, and that is what is causing fistula and some other things. So we spend money on fistula, but we don't address child marriage. So what are we doing? Are we not causing more problem, or are we not? We're not treating the root cause. So I want us to start treating the root cause. What is the cause? Sexual harassment is the cause of this. What can we do? Let's create awareness in all the communities. Let's create watchdogs. Let's talk to the police officers. Let's tell them that these things that is happening, this is what will happen to anybody that comes in. Don't grant them bail till maybe somebody from the Ministry of Women Affairs or the lawyer of that person has come. Don't grant them bail. Let there be strategic, let there be strategic informations or actions that should go if something happens like that.
No, we're talking about enforcing, getting government involved. Don't you think there will be challenges in terms of enforcement?
Yes, they will. Definitely.
And what are these challenges?
Definitely. When we started creating awareness for female genital mutilation, here in Abuja, in Ekiti, Osun State, and all of that, a lot of people came up and, they were like, no, we don't want it, themselves, they were the ones that were they were the ones telling us to leave their community, telling us to, somebody even looked at me and said, you were not caught. What happened to your parents? Are they dead? Things like that. People will want to hesitate because it's their cultural belief. It's something they've grown to know. But then when we now start saying that, okay, we don't want this thing to happen, this is the cause, this is why we don't want it to happen, then after some time people start getting to listen to us. But there's going to be pushbacks. That's the word. There's going to be people saying, we don't want it, we don't want you to come to our community and all of that. But we need people that can make them see reasons why it is important that they listen to us. Yeah.
So what's your final word to the government, to parents especially?
Yeah.
On breast ironing?
Yeah, there's a lot I want to say. When they say final words, there's just a lot in my head, but I would say that this is about our sisters, it's about our mothers, it's about our aunties, because they grow to become these things. It's important that we stop breast ironing. It's important that we stop all harmful traditional practices, stop sexual and gender-based violence in a whole, and at the end of the day, we can see that our girls, our women will live a full and enjoyable life. Thank you.
We sincerely appreciate
Thank you so much for
taking our time to be with us today. And well done in your work in the advocacy, group, fighting for the girl child, breast ironing, FGM.
Yeah.
And we know that one day all this will be put to an end.
Amen. I want to believe that is a prayer.
Yes, it's a prayer.
Yeah.
It's a prayer.
Thank you.
Our guest today has been Lois Tofunmi Amele, a certified gender-based mental health advocate and author and the founder, the Good Tides Philippian Mission Foundation. The dangers of breast ironing is that it exposes girls to so many health problems, such as cancer, abscesses, itching, discharge of milk, breast infection, severe fever, tissue damage, and even the complete disappearance of one or both breasts. This is due to the instruments which are used during the process of breast ironing. Examples are brooms, spoons, stones, breast bands, and leaves. Also adding insufficient aftercare to this, young girls are exposed to so many health risks. Breast ironing is painful and violates a young girl's physical integrity, social and psychological well-being. The Ministry of Women Affairs signing a memorandum of understanding with the communities is a step in the right direction. Let's continue to raise our voices and protect the girl child. That's the much we can take on today's program. Until next week. Bye-bye.